Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys football. We have a very, very intriguing game as Clemson goes on the road to play the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This is a Notre Dame team that obviously has had a disappointing season up to this point, but we're probably seeing them play the best football they have played all year as they just went on the road and beat a Syracuse team that went on the road against Clemson the last Saturday and almost beat Clemson. That's a very good Syracuse team. And Notre Dame really put together a very complete performance against a Syracuse team that has an explosive offense and a very solid defense. You look at what they were able to do. They were able to run the ball effectively, limit the turnovers, and play really, really good football on the defensive side of the ball and have some special teams plays. That was about as complete as we've seen a Notre Dame team play all year. And now they're heading into their biggest test and biggest game of the year. If you look about turning around a very disappointing season for Notre Dame, beating Clemson at home would certainly do that. Now, before we get into it again, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support you guys have shown. Again, it really does mean a lot. We love making these videos, and the support you guys have shown is absolutely insane. Over 2,000 subscribers. We appreciate the support. So if you do like the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's start getting into this game. I want to start with the Clemson Tigers. And just note that they are coming off a bye, and we probably will see the healthiest Clemson football team we've seen all year. This is a team that's been banged up. You look at some of the playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. A guy like Xavier Thomas, in and out of the lineup all year. Brian Brazee's been in and out of the lineup all year. And then, most importantly, it seems like a couple key guys in the secondary have not been playing consistently. And you're seeing, if there's a vulnerability in this Clemson defense, it is in the back end. It is the vertical passing game. Hopefully getting some of those guys back. Even if not all of them are back, you're still getting some more guys that you can trust back there. Because when you look at where Clemson's defense has got, it's by teams like Wake Forest, where they're just going to say, we're going to throw it up to our stud wide receivers like A.T. Perry and Donovan Green and trust them to go make some plays. And that's what they did. Now, this Clemson team is healthy, and I think when you look at the matchup and getting into how Notre Dame's offense can move the ball against Clemson, what's the biggest flaw I get with this Notre Dame offense? We talked about it all summer. It's their lack of ability to have that explosive passing game. Outside of Michael Mayer, there's not really a guy that you feel very good about beating Clemson, especially vertically. Like Lorenzo Styles has been okay, but I don't think he's caught for over 300 yards this year. So Notre Dame, in terms of attacking where Clemson might be vulnerable, I struggle to see that happening. Another interesting matchup you might want to look at is Notre Dame's been moving the ball primarily, running the football. They have some good backs. I mean, Estime's been very, very good. They're almost averaging 200 yards per game rushing the football. And as Notre Dame has found more success on offense, it's because that running game has been getting going. And then Drew Pine's able to use some of that, get some play actions, get some loaded boxes, and then hit some plays through the air. My question is, can Notre Dame run the football against a Clemson defensive line that is absolutely loaded? You look at what Clemson's done on defense, especially against teams trying to run the football. Teams are only averaging 3 yards per carry against this team, and you know why. Guys like Brian Brazee, Miles Murphy, Tyler Davis, Xavier Thompson, a core of linebackers that are absolute studs like Trenton Simpson, Barrett Carter. This is a very, very hard front seven to run the football on, and that's what is so important for this Notre Dame team to move the football. I think that's probably the biggest mismatch you see when Notre Dame has the ball is just they can't really push the ball down the field because they just the lack of skilled quarterback to an extent. Drew Pine is a solid quarterback. He's not a great quarterback, and he's not throwing to any wide receivers that are really, really special outside of Michael Mayer, who's primarily working over the middle of the field and not really vertically as much. Flipping sides. This Clemson offense, I think, is one of the more underrated offenses we've seen in the country. Because their defense is so good, yeah, maybe the offense isn't as good, but the offense has been pretty solid. 37 points per game. They're averaging over 420 total yards of offense per game. You look back at that Syracuse game, it obviously was ugly, but that's just because of turnovers. And on aggregate, Clemson hasn't been turning the ball over that much. You look at what DJU's been able to do, completing 64% of his balls for 17 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. What I think the biggest thing you're seeing is DJU's not being asked to do too much anymore because you have a very strong run game. This offensive line is vastly improved from last year. Will Shipley is vastly improved as a runner, and that's really opened up this Clemson offense. DJ is not being asked to do too much like he kind of was last year. I like what you've gotten from some of the wide receivers. It's a very balanced unit. Antonio Williams, a true freshman, has provided so much juice for this offense, kind of like that missing piece of a guy who can get separation. Joseph Nagata, for as talented as he is, guys like Nagata, Davis Allen, Bo Collins, they're not great at creating separation. They're better kind of making those combat catches, pushing the ball downfield vertically. Antonio Williams is kind of coming in to be that guy that those short and intermediate, although he can beat you with the deep ball, he's going to get open. He's going to get yards after the catch. And when you look at making the quarterback's job easier, having guys like that, I don't know if you remember Hunter Renfrow from a couple of years ago at Clemson. Obviously, the Clemson fans do. That's just a quarterback's best friend. Those easy entry throws that you might only need to only throw 5 yards down the field, but the player is going to make some plays and pick up the first down. I think Antonio Williams has really opened that up. You combine that with a very, very good run game. I think this Clemson offense, if they can kind of limit those really, really ugly turnovers that you saw rear its head against Syracuse, you look at that Syracuse game, and that's probably the biggest knock. That and the Wake Forest game. You look at what Clemson's been able to do outside of that, you're very impressed. Take a look at what they were able to do on the offense side of the ball against a very good Syracuse defense. They were moving the ball all right. They ran for almost 300 yards. Will Shipley averaged 6.4 yards per carry. Phil Maffa averaged 5.5 yards per carry that game. This Clemson offense is moving the football. They just were turning the ball over and not really scoring points. I mean, if you have over what it was almost 400 and something yards of total offense, you should probably be putting more than 27 points on the board. That was really due to turnovers. This Clemson offense, not as bad as it is, and they're going up against a Notre Dame defense that is very good. I mean, I like a lot of the players on Notre Dame. The only problem with this Notre Dame team is they're so talented. They have a good front seven. They just haven't been turning the ball over. And if you want to beat Clemson, Syracuse kind of had the blueprint. If you want to have a chance of hanging around with Clemson, you got to be able to force some turnovers. DJU, when he gets hot, when the game kind of gets bright, sometimes will turn the ball over. Notre Dame is not forcing any turnovers. 0.8 turnovers per game. They're going to need some turnovers. They're going to need some havoc plays from guys like Isaiah Foskey and some of those linebackers. That's kind of the key to the game. Now, getting to the pick, Clemson's going on the road to a very talented Notre Dame team, and they're getting 3.5 points. I like Clemson in this. We've been making a lot of money on Clemson, kind of covering about inside of a touchdown. I don't love Clemson covering over 2 touchdowns because they don't have the offense to do that. That's not their style. They like to run the football. They like to play good defense. But if you get it inside of 4 points, like I think this Clemson team, if you eyeball test this Clemson team, although they've had some ugly moments, has been much, much better of a team than this Notre Dame team. Yes, you're going on the road, but I like Clemson's ability to run the football, and I like their ability to limit those turnovers because Notre Dame has not been doing a good job turning the ball over on the defense side of the ball. I also really like the matchup on the defense. It comes down to, can Notre Dame score over 17 points? I find that very hard to believe. Drew Pine is a guy that needs a run game to really move the ball down the field. I don't think they'll be able to find a run game against a very, very good Clemson defense up front. Very good backers, very good defensive line. You're seeing the healthiest Clemson team we've probably seen all year. I think Clemson is kind of keyed into kind of push and kind of come into their best form as they roll into the ACC championship game and as they roll into potentially a college football playoff appearance. Give me Clemson to cover the 3.5 points on the road against a Notre Dame team that, although has starting to find its form, I just don't think has the dudes to beat Clemson or cover the 3.5. Again, appreciate you guys checking us out, supporting the channel. If you do like the content, consider subscribing. We really do appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.